the Sultan's circle of friendship and a love. The 16th century was the golden age of the Ottoman Empire. Its ruler was Suleiman the Magnificent. He was a great sultan. He was a conqueror. He was also a man with a heart. In his life, two people stood closer than any others. One was his childhood friend, Ibrahim Pasha. The other was his beloved wife, Hurrem Sultan. Ibrahim was the empire's mind. Hurrem was the empire's heart. But their closeness to the Sultan created a deep and bitter conflict. This was not just a personal quarrel. It was a fight for power. It was a struggle for survival. Their story would shape the destiny of the empire itself. Suleiman came to the throne a young man. He inherited a vast and powerful state. He relied on those he trusted most. Ibrahim, his companion from youth, was always by his side. They had grown up like brothers. Suleiman saw in Ibrahim a brilliant mind and an unwavering loyalty. He gave him immense authority. At the same time, a young woman from the harem captured his soul. Her name was Hürrem. She was not just beautiful. She was intelligent and full of life. She broke with tradition and won the Sultan's love, becoming his legal wife. This was an unprecedented act. It set the stage for a great drama. These two figures, Ibrahim and Hürrem, represented two different worlds. Ibrahim was the face of the state. He was the old order, the man of war, diplomacy, law. He believed in the traditions that made the empire strong. The harem was a separate place, meant to be kept apart from the business of government. The Grand Vizier's ascent, a brother to the Sultan. Ibrahim Pasha's rise was swift and spectacular. He was born a Christian, taken as a boy to serve the Ottoman court. He became the closest friend of the young Prince Suleiman. They shared meals. They studied together. They hunted together. A deep bond of trust formed between them. When Suleiman became Sultan, he did not forget his friend. He brought Ibrahim to the highest levels of power. He made him the Grand Vizier. This was the most important position in the entire empire. Ibrahim was now the Sultan's right hand. He commanded armies. He negotiated treaties. His signature was as powerful as the Sultan's own. Suleiman trusted Ibrahim completely. Their friendship was legendary. Ambassadors from Europe wrote about it in their reports. They noted how the Sultan and the Grand Vizier ate together. They noted how their palaces were close to one another. Ibrahim was more than an official. He was family. He even married the Sultan's own sister, solidifying his place within the royal house. For years, this partnership worked perfectly. Suleiman was the ultimate authority, the shadow of God on earth. Ibrahim was his loyal instrument, the man who turned the Sultan's will into action. He was a brilliant statesman. He was a skilled general. The empire flourished under their joint leadership. Ibrahim believed deeply in the Ottoman state. He saw himself as its ultimate guardian. The Sultan's heart, a mother's rise to power. While Ibrahim was building his power in the world of men, Hürrem was building hers in the world of women. She arrived in the Topkapi Palace as a slave, a gift to the Sultan. But she was not like the others. Fiery spirit, quick mind. She learned to navigate the complex world of the harem. She did not just seek to please the Sultan. She sought to capture his mind and his heart. She wrote him poems. She engaged him in conversation. She made him laugh, Suleiman, who carried the weight of an empire, found a true partner in her. He fell deeply in love. Hürrem's greatest source of power came from her children. She gave Suleiman several sons. In the Ottoman dynasty, this was the ultimate prize. A mother of princes had influence. But Hürrem wanted more than influence. She wanted security. She knew the brutal law of the empire, the law of fratricide. When a new sultan took the throne, he often had his brothers executed to prevent civil war. This tradition haunted Hürrem. It was a constant threat hanging over her sons. The thought that one of her boys might be killed by another was a terror she could not accept. Her every action was driven by a mother's fierce need to protect her children. To secure her son's future, Hürrem knew she had to break the rules. First, she convinced Suleiman to marry her, making her his legal wife. This was a shocking departure from tradition. Sultans did not marry their concubines. This act elevated her status above all other women in the harem. She was no longer just a favorite. She was the Hurrem Sultan. The lines of battle, a prince and a rivalry. The conflict between Hürrem and Ibrahim finally crystallized around one person, Prince Mustafa. Mustafa was Suleiman's eldest son, born to his first favorite, Mahidevran Sultan. He was handsome, brave, popular. The Janissaries, the elite soldiers of the empire, adored him. The people saw him as a worthy heir, a prince who resembled his great father. According to tradition, as the eldest son, Mustafa was the clear successor to the throne. Ibrahim Pasha was a firm supporter of Mustafa. He saw in the young prince the best hope for the empire's future. He mentored him and promoted his cause at court. Hurrem saw Mustafa as the single greatest threat to her own sons. If Mustafa became sultan, the law of fratricide would come for her children. They would be strangled with a silk cord to secure Mustafa's rule. This was her deepest fear. Her maternal instinct for survival made Mustafa his supporters her enemies. And Mustafa's most powerful supporter was Ibrahim Pasha. In Hurrem's eyes, Ibrahim was not just protecting the state. He was actively working to place a man on the throne who would have to kill her sons. This turned their political rivalry into a deeply personal and desperate struggle. The War of Whispers. Insults in the gilded halls. The hatred between Hurrem and Ibrahim soon spilled out into the open. It was a war fought not with swords, but with words. Their public encounters were filled with tension and barely concealed insults. Foreign ambassadors recorded these moments in their letters home. At grand state banquets, Ibrahim, as Grand Vizier, would take a seat of high honor. He made sure his position was clear, a public reminder that he, not the Sultan's wife, was the second most powerful person in the state. He let it be known that he viewed her as an upstart. Reports circulated that he called Hurrem a slave who forgot her place, a cutting remark that dismissed her entire rise to power. Hurrem was just as skilled in this war of whispers. She had the Sultan's ear, and she used it to slowly erode Suleiman's trust in his old friend. She did not need to make loud accusations. She could ask simple, probing questions. She would point to Ibrahim's immense wealth. She would point to his grand palaces. She would point to his confident demeanor. She would softly tell Suleiman what others were saying in the city. Some people, she might say, felt that Ibrahim was acting too much like a ruler himself. She would repeat the phrase being whispered in the markets. He sees himself as your equal. Even as a king beside you. The words were like poison, slowly seeping into the foundations of a lifelong friendship. Their rivalry became a public spectacle. At one gathering, the tension boiled over. A crown in the mind. The final years of the rivalry saw the pressure mount to an unbearable level. Ibrahim Pasha, perhaps blinded by his long friendship with the Sultan, continued to act with immense confidence. During a military campaign against the Persian Safavid Empire, he made a critical error. He adopted the title Serasker Sultan, which essentially meant Commander-in-Chief Sultan. While it was a military title, the word Sultan was sacred. It belonged to Suleiman alone. When this news reached Istanbul, Hurrem and her allies made sure the Sultan understood its implications. It was presented as the ultimate proof of Ibrahim's arrogance. It was the act of a man wearing a crown in his mind. More dangerous accusations began to circulate. Rumors suggested that Ibrahim was in secret communication with the Sultan's enemies. Letters were mentioned, though none were ever proven to exist. The idea was planted that Ibrahim, the guardian of the state, might be a traitor. For Suleiman, this was a terrifying thought. Could his oldest friend, the man he trusted like a brother, betray him? Doubt is a powerful acid. It corrodes even the strongest bonds. Hurrem did not need to prove Ibrahim was a traitor. She only needed to make Suleiman fear that he might be. Suleiman was caught in an impossible position. On one side was his beloved wife, the mother of his children, who pleaded for her sons' lives and warned him of betrayal. On the other was his friend of 30 years, the architect of his empire's glory, who he now suspected of monumental pride. The Sultan grew more withdrawn and suspicious. He saw the dangers everywhere. The end came suddenly and brutally. On March 15, 1536, Suleiman invited Ibrahim Pasha to the palace for a late dinner. It was a normal event, something that had happened countless times before. The two old friends ate and talked late into the night. Ibrahim then retired to his room within the palace. What happened next is shrouded in mystery. But during the night, a team of executioners entered the room. As a member of the royal family by marriage, Ibrahim's blood could not be spilled. He was strangled with a silk cord. The next morning, his body was found. The empire awoke to the shocking news. The Grand Vizier was dead, executed by the order of the Sultan he had served his entire life. The echoes of power, a victory and a tragedy. With Ibrahim's death, Hurrem Sultan had won. Her greatest rival was gone. The path was now clear for one of her own sons to succeed to the throne. She had achieved her ultimate goal. She had secured her children's future. Her influence over Suleiman became absolute. She was no longer just his wife. She was his chief political advisor. She corresponded with foreign kings. She advised on state appointments. She sponsored massive public works, mosques, schools, hospitals. She had transformed the role of the Sultan's wife forever, bringing the power of the harem directly into the center of government.